The first conversation of the day today. Now, a MasterCard Foundation funded study awarded 14 million Pula has developed innovative African-rooted monitoring and evaluation tools to transform how development programs are designed and assessed across the continent. Led by Professor Gaolathe and the Pan-African Indigenous Evaluation Consortium, the tools are inspired by Ubuntu and indigenous knowledge systems tested in Malawi, Zambia and Uganda. They put community, culture and local values at the heart of measuring success, offering a new model for African-led sustainable development. So joining us to unpack these powerful insights are Professor Gaolathe and Ms. Rosette Labomba from Uganda, as we explore how African-rooted evaluation is redefining what true development success looks like. Ladies, let me welcome you to the Daybreak and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, let's just start by you briefly telling us what really motivated the project or the study itself. We saw that sometime last year it was being launched in March, and we saw that we were looking forward in May rather. We were looking forward to seeing what is going to be happening with the year-long project. So if you can give us a bit of background on that and why it was important. It is important to develop the African-rooted evaluation tools.
Thank you and good morning. This is Bagere speaking. The African-rooted evaluation study that is on now started in 2023, and it is a follow-up of the current debate on development in Africa. The question has always been, there is so much money pumped into development projects in Africa. There are so many donors pumping up money to fund projects in Africa. But we are still where we were 20 years ago, 50 years ago. There is still poverty in our communities. And so the question is, how are we accounting for the money? Why is it that we report these projects as successful when on the ground things still remain the same? So it was in view of this troubling trend in Africa that we tried to answer the question of how best can development projects in Africa be planned, monitored, and evaluated in such a way that each and every stakeholder is accountable and that communities also participate in the development and in finding solutions to their problems.
All right. All right, let me thank you so much. In addition to that, Ms. Labomba, maybe we can also, in the same line, then speak to how placing African voices and perspectives at the center stage is the conversation today around development success.
Thank you very much. Good morning, our viewers. I'm Rosette Labomba. I live in Uganda, but I'm here to represent the African Evaluation Association, where I am a former president. So adding to what she has just mentioned, from the Africa perspective, we are looking at an agenda where we are promoting made in African evaluation approaches. And in that, we want to ground evaluation in the local context, which has been talking about. But we are also guided by the African evaluation principles, which were developed in 2021 by Africans. And we want to empower Africans, do research, do evaluation that empowers Africans, both as stakeholders who are doing evaluation, but as project recipients. And therefore, it is very important that we continue to think African, target to move development a step further by considering the needs of their communities. whom we serve.
All right. Maybe to take you a bit back, Professor, we can then look at the gaps. What were the gaps that we were seeing in terms of monitoring and evaluation that prompted the start of this research? What were those things you felt we need to contextualize this to Africa?
Okay. What we found out was that in most cases when funders fund projects in Africa, they already have the methods that should be used to collect the data. They've already predetermined the objectives that have to be met. And in most cases, those objectives are not responsive to the priorities of the people. And so when we have a situation where you have objectives that are going a different direction, and the objectives are, in most cases, they are about accounting to the funder, and they're more about compliance and less about the benefits of the communities. And so when we started complaining that why should funders and donors dictate the data collection, the methods, the frameworks, then they say the answer was, of course, we are using the tried and tested frameworks and methods. So Africa, if you want to contribute, bring us the tools, bring us the frameworks, make visible those frameworks that you think will be contextualized enough to capture the voices of the African people. So in that context, we are being challenged to participate in the global production of how to measure success, how to evaluate, how to monitor. And it was in that context that we developed these monitoring and evaluation frameworks that, in our view, are meant to address the gap. First of all, the gap of absence of that which is African-centered. And secondly, to address that gap of frameworks from the North, the global North, that are decontextualized, that do not capture the context of the communities and the context of the African people, that do not actually bring in the indigenous knowledge of the African people, that actually see as irrelevant the cultures of the African people. So with these tools, we are bringing in the culture, we are bringing in the values, we are bringing in the indigenous knowledge of the African people. And that's why they are novel, and that's why they are different from what has been used.
All right. Now taking from what she's been saying, Ms. Labomba, let's speak then to Ubuntu and, of course, indigenous knowledge, as she has started speaking on, how they shape the design of these tools and really how we contextualize them to the rest of Africa. Ubuntu, we know it as something that is really common when we speak of African culture, especially in the SADC region. But let's then see how it all relates to the rest of Africa, as well as indigenous knowledge systems.
I would like to pass on, because she's the professor of Ubuntu. Okay. So let her deal with these Ubuntu issues and more on the strategic issues of Africa.
Yes. Most
please,
definitely.
Professor.
Yes.
Professor, please.
Yes. Ubuntu. When we talk of Ubuntu, we talk of collective action. We talk of togetherness, we talk of mutual respect, we talk of spirituality. Ubuntu is that one philosophy that makes us different from the rest of the world. And it makes us different in one particular aspect, and that is the aspect of spirituality. So we bring in spirituality in evaluation to add on to the debates and the practice in evaluation. And we bring in Ubuntu to say Ubuntu is based on the concept of the philosophy of I am because we are. Mm-hmm. I am because we are. Mm-hmm. When we say I am because we are not only referring to the relationships between people and amongst people, mm-hmm. but we are also talking about our relationship with the environment. Mm-hmm. The environment is a living organism, and therefore one contribution of this philosophy to evaluation is to say that when we evaluate projects, we should not only be looking at the benefits to the communities, but we should also be looking to how we are preserving our environment. Take, for example, agriculture. If you have a project on agriculture, you have funded a project on agriculture, you should not only be concerned about the outputs and the outcomes, but you should also be asking yourself, is this project preserving the land? Is it preserving the soil? That has been called environmental justice. And we credit the Ubuntu. And I think even the rest of the world, they are excited about this indigenous aspect, this indigenous knowledge, this African indigenous philosophy, because you know, we have the challenge of climate change. Mm-hmm. People don't know what to do. They do not know how to live with the environment, right. To communicate with the environment. Mm-hmm. And they are looking at sustainability and all of those things. And we are saying, invoke spirituality from Ubuntu, the African Ubuntu, the African spirituality. Mm-hmm. And we are not talking of spirits, mm-hmm. we are talking of connections, yeah. Connections with the environment and with each other. Mm-hmm. That is just one aspect. Mm-hmm. The other aspect of togetherness, mutual respect, it means making it a must that communities should participate in finding solutions to their problems, and therefore participate in designing the project right from its planning, right from its conception, mm-hmm. throughout the implementation, mm-hmm. the monitoring, and the evaluation. Communities deciding on what counts, mm-hmm. as success. That is togetherness, that is collective action coming from the Ubuntu.
The spirit of Ubuntu.
Yes.
All right. Let me thank you so much. You've really explained it quite well. Definitely is so. Your area. Right. Okay. Ms. Labomba, let's then speak to the project itself, or the study, having been awarded the 14 million pula, to be precise, and also to explain why developing these African-rooted evaluation tools requires such significant investment. What does this investment mean to such researchers, and what really the funding actually covered in the process?
First of all, I'll make a general comment that Africa has largely depended on foreign aid to do its own research. And in that way, we never developed our capacity, our resource base to fund our own research. And therefore, when we get an opportunity from MasterCard Foundation, and we thank them so much, to fund such a large project, we are very grateful. Doing this kind of project requires a lot of input because it involves different universities from across Africa. African Evaluation Association, we are like 6 partners across Africa where you are dealing with not only building capacity within the University of Botswana, but the other universities and institutions that are partnering. And in that way, you need resources for that. We had to do a systematic review where we went into a technical process of librarians at University of Botswana, digging up all this information around Made in Africa evaluation. and that takes money.
Right.
We had to do different social media platforms, Twitter, and to ensure that we collect data that can inform the work that we are doing. Mm-hmm. We also pilot tested the work in Malawi, in Zambia, in Uganda, and teams went there to interrogate the very issues that Professor is talking about, talking to the communities, allowing them to share their insights, bringing them together to talk to each other. That also costs money. So doing this type of research, I would say actually the money allocated wasn't sufficient, mm-hmm. because we want to progress to prepare a book where future generations can read this type of thing. We want to make sure we have videos, TikTok, many other things, many other products. So I wish somebody would jump on and bring a similar amount of money and make sure the project progresses even to other universities beyond University of Botswana. So I would say, first of all, thank you so much to MasterCard Foundation, mm-hmm. which actually gave us this fund. We need more money. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the need for more money, I think right there, if you can briefly speak then to what the experience is with African countries. Do we find ourselves really contributing towards research development, towards monitoring and evaluation and improving that particular aspect of any project? Do we see that? Or
yes, yes. Actually, a lot of work is going on, especially with the strategic leadership by the African Evaluation Association, mm-hmm. and other continental bodies like Clear AA, Twendembele. Many things are going on around monitoring, building capacity, mm-hmm. and actually taking monitoring and evaluation in Africa. The universities are doing very well in producing some materials, training materials, capacity building materials that help countries to develop in-house capacity. And then you'll find each country has an agenda. We have a 2063 agenda under African Union, which we are all looking at to make sure that we build capacities around Africa. And therefore you find, even when I come from a country like Uganda, the monitoring and evaluation system is well built to ensure that we are accountable, we are development oriented, we support the communities, we evaluate our own activities and produce national development plans that respond to evidence from monitoring and evaluation. So the ecosystem is growing, it's large, but we need more input by bringing in the Made in Africa evaluation approaches, things that enable even the lower level communities to be engaged, not to be just subjects where we go and exploit data, but they too bring their own indigenous knowledge to impact on the strategies that we decide to implement in our individual countries. Mm-hmm.
Let me thank you so much. Professor Chilisa, the research is by far where it is, and having your research findings so far, what are the challenges that you foresee in terms of shifting from modern reporting or modern M&E to the African-rooted frameworks, and how will those challenges then be addressed? We have like a minute left.
I think, as you said, Africa is doing very well. Mm-hmm. Africa is adopting national evaluation policies, and they are committing themselves to those national evaluation policies. With national evaluation policies, you can actually adopt the Made in Africa evaluation frameworks. But I'm afraid without countries signing national evaluation frameworks, it's going to be a very difficult road. Mm-hmm. So it is my hope that African countries that have not signed that have not come up with national evaluation policies will do so soon.
Mm-hmm. And then in the last 30 seconds, your main message that you'd like viewers to take away with African-rooted monitoring and evaluation processes, or the development and the success of it, therefore, what would be your message?
My main message is Africa is awake. Africa is becoming very proud of its culture. Each and every person, even a person in the village, that indigenous knowledge system is essential, is important. It can be turned into a tool that can help us monitor, evaluate in ways that resonate with our values.
Let me thank you so much, Professor Chilis, as well as you, Ms. Labomba. Thank you so much and welcome to Botswana.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Okay. We're speaking African-rooted monitoring and evaluation and the project thereof. And, you know, having received a funding of 14 million pula, and, you know, what the procedure or the process has been like, and what Ubuntu brings to the table for us, Africa, as we look towards developing the monitoring and evaluation aspects of projects here in Africa.
Today we take a major step in transforming teaching